Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to show you a bunch of easy tips and tricks to help you break out of playing those same old boring punk rock power chord rhythms. But before we begin, please like and subscribe. It really helps my channel out a lot. And check out my website, scottobryanguitar.com. I've got the tab for hundreds of punk, rock, and grunge songs up there, as well as a bunch of other resources. And here we go. All right, so don't get me wrong, sometimes the best thing for a song is to just play those straightforward punk power chords, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, or just like let loose. But a lot of times we will play like a punk style rhythm with power chords, and then we're going to kind of repeat that rhythm throughout the song, maybe in a verse or chorus like 3 or 4 times, and it gets kind of predictable and a little bit boring to play the same thing over and over again. So I'm going to show you some tips and tricks on things you can do to mix that up a little bit. So we're going to start with a pretty basic like punk style chord progression that goes like this. Very simple, kind of generic. So we're going to start, it's basically a G, C, D to C power chord progression. Now we might be playing that on the verse, we might be playing that in the chorus, but chances are we're probably going to repeat that every time that section comes around in that song, and it's going to get predictable. People are going to kind of start to hear the same things and kind of be like, this is a little bit boring. So one of the first things we can do to mix it up, and this is something Steve Jones of the Sex Pistols does a lot, and what he'll do is when he plays his verse parts and even his chorus parts, he'll play it a little differently each time through. So he might play that power chord first. The second time through, he might take those same major chords and play them open. So we've got a G to a C to a D to a C. So we might play something like the second time through, or the third time through, or whatever. The Clash also likes to do that. They'll kind of play the power chords off of, with the 2 guitar players, the power chords off of the open chords. We can also just do big open chords. So like if we have the bass chugging along, we can just do like a big open. It's another thing like that sounds very similar to what the Clash might do in that situation. The next thing we might try is to palm mute. So we can do something like this. Now this works really well in a verse where you want to kind of tone it down so that you can really like go full force in the chorus. But it also works good to just kind of mix it up a little bit. So if you're normally playing, and you can even kind of mix it up and go from like the palm mutes to gradually opening up to like full open chords. So another thing we can do to mix it up is play the same chords just an octave higher. So we've got a G, C, D, C again. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move up to the G that's at the 10th fret root of the A string and play a 2-note power chord there. So we're just starting at the 10th fret root of the A string. We're going to play a 2-note power chord with our ring finger at the 12th fret of the D string. And then we're just going to move that whole progression up. So we can go to the 10th fret of the D string, which is a C, and play a 2-note power chord. And then move up to the 12th fret, 2-note power chord, and then back to the 10th fret. So all we did there was we just moved the same chord progression up an octave higher. And then speaking of octaves, another trick we can do is to play the actual octaves of that same chord progression. And so basically what an octave is, it's 2 of the same notes, an octave apart, played at the same time. So here we go to the G, which is our starting note. That's the 10th fret of the A string. And then we are going to play the 12th fret of the G string with our ring finger. And then we're going to mute the in-between string, the D string, with our index finger. So we're going to kind of bridge it over, and we're just going to kind of mute it. And so then we can play that same chord progression. So G to C, which is at the 15th fret, to D, which is at the 17th fret, back to C at the 15th fret. So which kind of gives it a unique sound. And we can also do like a melodic rhythm that's within the key of that song, which is a G, so we could just do. And we can do something like that over the top of the bass line, provided it's in the same key. Another thing we can do is something that Johnny Thunders does a lot, is we can play like almost like a single note bass line with the guitar that's within the framework of the chord progression. So we could play something like this. So what we're doing is we're taking the root note of each chord, so we've got a G here, and then we're just doing a kind of running bass line within like the major scale, starting at that position. Now you don't have to do the major scale, you don't have to know any scales, you can kind of just feel this out by ear. So basically the first chord we're going to play something like this. And then when we move up to the next chord, it's the exact same form of that scale. So we're moving up to that 3rd fret of that A string, which is a C. And then we're just doing the same thing. We're moving up to the 5th fret of the A string, which is the D. And then we're moving back down to our last chord, the C, and we're just playing it a little different this time. You could play something like this. It doesn't have to be exact. This is just an example. And it doesn't have to be exactly that. It can be any type of single note riff that you want to create that fits within the framework of those chords. And really the easiest way to do that is to just start each chord change with at the root note of the chord. So for the chord progression I showed you earlier, we're going to be at 3rd fret E, 3rd fret A, 5th fret A, 3rd fret A. So as long as you start there and then work within like a scale or by ear, if you can play by ear, you can do like a single note riff based on that. I mean, even if it's something as simple as like, it kind of mixes things up a little bit. And then the last trick to use is double notes. So when we're playing that chord progression, one thing we can do is we can just drop out the root note of those power chords and just play these double notes. So, for example, our G, if we take out that root note, the 3rd fret on the low E, and just play the 5th fret with our finger bridged across the A and D, it kind of has a different intonation and different sound, but it's within that same framework of that chord or that same key. So we can do that whole chord progression with just those double notes. And we can even mix up the rhythm like that just to kind of mix it up a bit. Or you can just play it straight time. And that's just going to give it a little bit of a different tonality so that it kind of sounds different. So that's it for this one. Work on those different tips and tricks the next time you are writing a song or playing a song, and see how you can kind of fit those in to kind of mix things up a little bit. Thanks again for watching, and if you appreciate this content, please like and subscribe. It really helps my channel out a lot. And check out my website, ScottO'BrienGuitar.com. I have the tab for hundreds of punk, rock, and grunge songs up there, as well as a bunch of other resources. And I will see you guys next time.